Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to show you how to draft a blazer dress that has a shawl lapel collar. There's a twist when it comes to how to go about the lapel, because I've treated shawl lapels on the channel before, so this video is going to have an easier way to go about cutting a shawl lapel collar, and there would be a sewing part of this video. I just didn't want to squeeze all of them into one video so that I don't end up rushing things, so that it would be a video that would be very easy to follow and understand. So I'm dropping the video on how to sew the jacket complete on Saturday, but I wanted to drop this video first to get you guys working. Thank you for watching. If you are still watching my videos after almost 3 years, after 3 years now, thank you so much for your support. If you've not subscribed, like a lot of you have not, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to give my video a like if it helps you out in any way. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you on Saturday. Alright, welcome to this video, and we're about to start drafting. The first part of the blazer dress we're going to draft is the back. So we're going to draft the back first before we get to the front. Most of the technicality is going to be centered around the shawl lapel. Over the years, I have treated different parts of a jacket. So I have a separate video I have made in the past on how to draft a sleeve. I have how to create a two-piece sleeve for a blazer. So if you're a person that has been watching all my videos, you should be able to make an entire jacket without a dedicated video. But this video is to treat how to, you know, make everything as a whole, to contain all the steps that you would need and how you should go about making it. So that's what this video is. Alright, so the first thing I would do is to basically draft the back. Because this is a blazer dress and you've seen that it's a short dress, or you will see that it end up being a short dress, there is no need to put a slit at the back. But if you are making it to be longer, maybe like close to your knee, maybe a bit below your knee, you will need to have a slit behind to make it easy for you to walk. The first thing we're going to do is what we always do: keep all our vertical measurements. Vertical measurements are measurements that come from your shoulder going all the way down, like your dress length, your underbust length, and all of that. And then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from here all the way down. I'm going to keep a space of ½ an inch away from the edge as well. So now I'm going to place my underbust length. The underbust length we're working with is 14. We're going to count 4 inches from there to find our bust. We're going to come down by 2 inches and make a mark. This is 2 inches after your underbust length. And then you're going to place the shoulder to the waist measurement. How I take that is I come from my shoulder to the belly button. That's at 19. And then to place our hip measurement. Your hip measurement is going to fall 2 inches after this 2 inch that we placed after the underbust length. Alright, so 6 inches from where your nipple point is, that's where you're going to start taking your hip, where you would use to start finding your hip. So remember, I placed underbust length 2 inches after your underbust length. From these 2 inches after your underbust length to where your hip should fall should be around 8 inches. So from here we're going to come to 8 inches and I'm going to make a mark. This is where we're going to place our hip, and then I'm going to place the dress length. So the dress is quite short at 34 inches. I'm now going to rule lines across all these points. Alright, the next thing, start placing all the measurements that we're supposed to have on these lines that we have ruled. We're going to place our shoulder where our shoulder is meant to be, at the very top. The shoulder was 14 inches across. 14 inches divided by 2, 7. I'm going to place 7 here. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come to the bust line. Alright, and I'm going to place the bust there divided by 4. The bust I'm working with is 34. 34 divided by 4, 8.5. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place the underbust round as the underbust length. The underbust round we are working with is 28. 28 divided by 4 is 7 inches. I'm going to place the same thing at these 2 inches after the underbust length. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come to the belly button. That's the shoulder to waist, where I took my waist measurement. The waist measurement we're dealing with is 29. 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. Alright, and then over here I'm going to place the hip. Alright, the hip that we're working with is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Alright, And then at the bottom of the jacket, we're going to place, of the blazer dress, we're going to place the same thing we place at the hip down here. So at the hip we place 9.5, right? Yes, 9.5. I'm going to place the same thing here. And then the next step is to connect all our lines together. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slope the shoulder by 1 inch. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the shoulder and make a mark. And then connect my lines together over there. So start from here, taper out. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place the armhole. The formula for finding your armhole is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So 34 divided by 6 plus 1.5 is 7.1. I'm going to come from here and place 7.1. Alright? And then I'm going to create my armhole. Alright, now I know you're wondering why I kept this ½ inch line running at the top to the bottom, since if I'm not going to place a slit. The reason why I placed that line there is so that I'll be able to create a dart. Now when you are making a jacket, you have different ways of applying your darts at the front and at the back. You can go ahead to start from the armhole and create a princess dart, from the armhole coming all the way down. You can come from the shoulder, depending on the design, and come all the way down. Or you can hold a dart like you hold a dart on a basic pencil dress, for example. So you're going to start the dart 7 inches away from the shoulder, and you will make the dart deepest at this point over here. That's 2 inches after your underbust length, and then taper it out as you head towards your hip. So you can go ahead and make a regular dart. For this, I want to have 2 types. So we're going to use this midline that I have here as one of the darts, and then I'm going to keep allowance for a regular dart that's going to fall on the body as well. But I'm not going to tamper with the armhole by creating a princess dart. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to this point here where we have our shoulder to our underbust. This point here where we came down 2 inches after the underbust length, we're going to come in by ½ inch, alright, and make it that. So at this point here, this is your underbust length, and this here is your waist. So in between that, I've come in by ½ inch. I'm going to taper this from the top, slowly taper it out to here, and then taper it out before it gets to my hip line. This is going to make the back of the jacket to lay flat, even besides and in addition to the darts that we're going to place there anyway. Alright, so now when I'm cutting, the reason why I place this ½ inch here, because I could have just done it, but once there's a cut, your allowance is going to reduce a bit. So if I had not kept this ½ inch allowance here, and then I now make this cut that I've made here, and I go ahead to sew, I will consume my shoulder by 1 inch, but I don't want to do that. So this piece here is going to pay for whatever holding I would need to make. So when I'm cutting it out, you notice that all the ½ inch here will be preserved, but I'll come in and make it ½ inch here and taper out to the ½ inch, so that once I hold ½ inch, the dart does what it's supposed to do, but my shoulder does not change, my hip measurement does not change, because I made a cut into the back. I hope you understand what I just said. The next thing I'm going to do is let's place where we're going to place our regular darts. Remember, I told you that we're going to have 3 darts at the back, 1 on the left, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the right. So we're going to come in to our bust line here by 4 inches. It's 4 inches because I'm using the bust point to bust point, which is 7 inches divided by 2 plus ½ inch. So for you, that might be different. So I'm going to place 4 here, 4 here, and notice I'm starting from where I wrote the ½ inch line, not from this point. Okay. All right. After the hip line, you want to come down to 1.5 inches and just make a mark at where 1.5 inches is. Then you're going to come just above this line mark that we made here. You're going to come to 7 inches from the shoulder. See that? So 7 inches away from the shoulder, made my mark. Then I'm going to connect the lines together. So the line I'm ruling and the dart I'm going to hold will start from 7 inches away from where the shoulder is, not the slope, the original line, 7 inches from there, and will stop 1.5 inches after the waistline. Alright, the deepest point of the dart is still going to be here. Alright, this is still going to be the deepest point of the dart. Alright, I hope that that's clear. So this is how the dart is going to work. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to keep our regular allowances. Now, usually when I make a dart, like a princess dart and all of that, you see me paying for measurements. In this case, I'm not going to pay for any measurements that I'm taking away. Like this one here, this ½ inch here, we already have our sewing allowance here, so this ½ inch here will pay for itself. But this dart, I'm not going to take away, add anything here because I place a dart here. The reason why I'm not doing that is because the dart is here to take away any excess that we're going to have there already. So if we place our allowance here with extra allowance, we're simply just cancelling whatever this dart is doing. It's still going to lay flat, but you will not have to hold a lot. This here is taking away excess that was going to be there, so there's no need to pay for it again. This here has been paid for by the ½ inch already, and it's still going to, you see, at the end of the day, the back is going to lay really flat. The next thing we're going to take care of is our neckline. The neckline, now you know this is the back. I hope that keep that in mind, that this is the back. The neckline, we're going to place a width of 2.5 inches, and we're going to place a depth of 1 inch. So you can see where I'm taking the measurements from. All the measurements are being taken from the black ½ inch line I placed there. After this, next step, just simply place all your allowances. At the bottom, I'm going to place 2 inches of allowance. At the top here, we're going to have ½ inch for our shoulder allowance. And on the side, I'm going to place 2 inches of sewing allowance everywhere. Now, you can see that I'm placing 2 inches instead of the regular 1.5 I usually place. Now, on a jacket is a bit different from a dress. So though this is going to be, you know, fitted on the body, but it's not going to be tight. All right, so when you see me placing 2 inches of allowance, when I'm on my sewing machine, I will end up using only 1 inch out of that 2 inches, or I might end up using 1.5, leaving that ½ inch. That will end up being roughly, if you want to add ½ inch on the left, on the right, ½ inch front, left and right, we end up having roughly 2 inches of room around the body. You need it to be fitted, you don't need it to be tight. So this 2 inches of allowance I'm placing, when I'm sewing, you would see that when in the sewing video, I'm not going to end up sewing 2 inches. I might end up sewing a bit less than 2 inches, so as to create room for a bit of freedom. Because this is a structured outfit, it's not as, you know, tightly fitting as a dress would be, even though it's a jacket that is a dress. I hope that that's clear. So I place 2 inches everywhere, and then I'm going to cut it out. Please watch closely to how Alright, so I hope you've seen how I cut it. I hope I didn't speed it up too fast. You can see that when I was cutting my allowance, the ½ inch allowance is maintained from here, then it tapers in and then comes back out. You can see that it's forming that shape that the back is supposed to have. Yeah, so this is it for the back. Let's move on to the front where all the spice is. So on our pattern paper, what I'm going to do, first of all, now you've seen that this is a double-breasted jacket, so one side crosses over, and we have a total of, you know, 2 buttons on each side, 2 buttons that sit parallelogram. So this is the front. Now you know that this is a double-breasted jacket, so we would have 2 buttons sitting parallel to. We'll have 2 buttons sitting parallel to one another, running from where the lapel sits across itself all the way down. So you need to make provisions for one side of your jacket to be able to cross into the other side. Now, how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by keeping 5 inches in front of our pattern before we start drafting. Alright, so we're going to roll 5-inch, keep 5-inch of allowance away from the edge from top all the way down, and then I will keep my 1/2 inch at my shoulder. That's going to serve as my sewing allowance. That's my sewing allowance at the shoulder. Alright. Alright, now after we have done that, next thing we're going to do is we're going to place all our vertical measurements like we did before. So the shoulder, you know, when we place the shoulder, the underbust length, we found the bust, the underbust round and all of that, all the way down to the hip and the dress length. Just like we did that at the back, we're going to do that now in front. Alright, so you can see that all my measurements start from, all the lines I roll start from after this 5-inch line that we have running from top to bottom, and that's where all my measurements are going to start from. I'm not going to have any measurements starting from the front here, at least for the main, you know, body measurements. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out the points for my darts. I'm going to divide the bust points to bust points into 2. That's 7 divided by 2 plus 1/2 inch, which is going to give us 4. I'm going to place it at the bust, and I'm going to place it at the waist. Alright, now the darts that we're placing is going to start 1 inch after the bust, and it's going to stop once I hit the waist. Alright, the fullest point of the dart is going to be here at the half cut. That's 2 inches after the underbust length. Alright, so it's not be at the waist, it will be up here 2 inches after the underbust length, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch dart, as you can see. So let me mark out the points. Alright, so next thing with that, we are done with anything concerning darting. For this, the next thing we're going to do is you need to decide how open you want the front of your jacket to be. I'm talking about the cleavage now. What we're going to do now is you need to decide how much cleavage you want to show. Alright, so for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from the shoulder all the way down to 12 inches. Alright, and I'm going to make a mark here. Now this 12 inches is where, you know, well, it's a shawl lapel collar, or it's a double-breasted. This 12 inches is where I want both of them to cross. Alright, to cross themselves. You can bring it lower, you can take it higher, but if you take it higher, I don't feel it will not be a blazer anymore. By the time you are done putting the amount of buttons you will need, you end up wearing a coat. So I'm going to bring it down. You can bring it down even a bit more than this 12 inches if you want. Matter of fact, I think I should be a bit daring. I'm going to bring it down to 14. Alright, and then what you are going to do next is you are going to place your neckline. So the same neckline width you used at the back, you will need to use it at the front. So you're going to place a neckline width of 2.5. Alright, and then you're going to connect that 2.5 to this 15 that I've placed here, which is quite deep. I don't care. And then I'm going to draw a line. Alright, once you hit this line, you want to quickly start heading out. Okay, and after you have done this, you've basically formed the, you know, the space for the lapel. Alright, this point here is where, by the time she puts on the jacket, this point here is where they are going to cross themselves. Alright, just really hope that you understand that. Alright, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to come to the top of the jacket, so to where you have your neckline. So this area here that I just made a created your neckline from, I want you to tape it down like I've done. Let's put a piece of paper there, because this is a shawl lapel collar. First thing we're going to do is tape that on so that we can now start creating the lapel. Next thing you need to decide is how big you want your lapel to be. So if you're a person that likes a full lapel, this is when you add it. If you don't want such, a very big lapel, this is when you make that decision. All right, so for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, draw out your 1/2 inch allowance at your shoulder, so that has been paid for already. Next thing you are going to do is you are going to place the height of the collar. Whatever you've taken out for your neckline width, you will need to add it. Okay, that's what you're going to use when you're fixing your collar. So here we have 2.5. You're going to come on top of this allowance and place 2.5 on top of the allowance. By placing it on top of the allowance, you've added that 2.5, that extra 1/2 inch allowance to the 2.5. I hope that's clear. Because we're placing it on our allowance, we don't need to add allowance to it again, because this allowance has already been automatically added to that 2.5. It will make sense when we are sewing if you are still confused. The next thing we're going to do is how full. Yes, like I said, back to how full we want the lapel to be. For me, I want it to be 4 inches thick. So you're going to come here, make a mark at 4 inches here. I'm going to taper it down as I go lower to be 4 inches at the back. Taper it down a bit. You can see now I'm placing 3 inches. And then I'm placing 2.5. And by the time I get to the end, it's going to be nothing. Alright? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 2 inches of allowance on the side. So this part is going to be attached onto here from the bottom to the top, and will be attached to the back. Let me get the back. Alright, so here we have the back to be attached like so, and then the shawl lapel will be attached to it. This will be a very interesting sewing video. So that's all for the draft. Thank you for watching if you watched this far. I'll see you in the video where we transfer all of this to our fabric, and then I show you how to create and piece everything together and create your jacket. Alright, so thank you for watching if you watched this far. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.